The Dead by James Joyce is the 15th short story published in the 1914 collection titled Dubliners. This realist fiction is set in the early 1900s in Dublin, Ireland. This modernist short story is from the third-person anonymous point of view. Click the link in the description box below for more Dubliners short stories. The tale begins with Miss Kate and Miss Julia Morkan, two elderly spinster sisters, hosting their annual holiday dance. Their house buzzes with laughter and chatter as guests arrive. Lily, the caretaker's daughter, helps guests despite being overwhelmed. The sisters live in an old house on Usher's Island with their niece, Mary Jane, who earns her living through music. The three women are a bit on edge. It's past 10 p.m., and their nephew Gabriel Conroy and his wife Greta haven't arrived yet. They're also worried that Freddie Malins, another guest, might show up drunk. Gabriel and Greta finally arrive. As Lily helps Gabriel with his belongings, he comments that she must be thinking about marriage soon. Offended, Lily replies about men's predatory nature, which leaves Gabriel unsettled. She replies, "The men that is now is only all palaver and what they can get out of you." He awkwardly tips her before being warmly greeted by his aunts, who are fond of him. Gabriel begins rehearsing a dinner speech, nervous about how it will be received. They would think that he was airing his superior education. He would fail with them just as he had failed with the girl in the pantry. Meanwhile, the festive atmosphere continues as guests chat and dance. Freddie Malins arrives, visibly drunk, but Mr. Brown discreetly ensures he drinks only lemonade. Gabriel finds himself distracted, thinking about his late mother, who disapproved of his marriage to Greta but was cared for by her in her final days. Gabriel's reflections are interrupted when Mary Jane plays a professional-sounding musical piece. Afterwards, he dances with Miss Ivers, who teases him about his conservative political views and works for a unionist paper. The conservative paper's views are debatable, but Gabriel is well paid for his literary column. Miss Ivers invites him to vacation in the Irish countryside, which Gabriel declines, preferring a cycling trip abroad. Her questioning irritates him, especially when she calls him a West Briton, implying disloyalty to Ireland due to his disinterest in the Gaelic or Irish language. Gabriel struggles to shake off her remarks. Later, Gabriel agrees to carve the goose at dinner, though he remains preoccupied with his speech and the confrontation with Miss Ivers. Aunt Julia sings a raid for the bridal impresses everyone, though her sister Kate laments how Julia's talent was underappreciated in the church choir, especially after Pope Pius X banned women from participating. Mary Jane lightens the mood, reminding everyone that the real cause of their grumpiness is hunger, hinting it's time to eat. Outside the drawing room, Gabriel finds his wife, Greta, and Mary Jane trying to persuade Miss Ivers to stay for dinner. Gabriel joins in, but Miss Ivers insists on leaving, though she departs cheerfully. Gabriel wonders if his earlier awkwardness drove her away. Aunt Kate soon appears, asking Gabriel to carve the goose. He carves skillfully while the dinner guests discuss topics like the opera company performing at the Theatre Royal. Among them is Mr. Bartell Darcy, a tenor. The conversation drifts to the quality of modern singers versus those of the past. Darcy defends current talent, claiming Irish singers are just as good but often move abroad. Aunt Kate reminisces about a long-forgotten tenor she admired, and though no one remembers him, a guest pretends to confirm his name, perhaps to please her. After dessert and more drinks, Gabriel gives a heartfelt speech. His earnest words bring tears to his aunt's eyes, though Aunt Kate struggles to hear him. Everyone celebrates with a cheerful rendition of "For They Are Jolly Gay Fellows," which nobody can deny. Gabriel shares an old family story about his grandfather's horse, Old Johnny, who once circled a statue of King William II in the center of Dublin as if it were a racetrack. The story is interrupted by Freddie Malins, who returns to announce that only one cab is available. He, his mother, and Mr. Brown take it. Gabriel notices Greta standing at the top of the stairs, lost in thought and shrouded in shadows. When she comes down, she asks Mr. Darcy about the song he had been singing, "The Lass of Aughrim." As Gabriel and Greta leave the party, he feels a surge of affection for his wife. In the cab, he gazes at her lovingly, but she seems distant. At the hotel, Gabriel pays for the cab and helps Greta to their room, where the porter leads them by candlelight. Despite Gabriel's romantic mood, Greta appears troubled. She eventually breaks down, moved by memories stirred by the Lass of Aughrim. She tells Gabriel about Michael Fury, a boy she once loved. Michael, though frail and ill, risked his health to visit her in the cold before she left for convent school. Shortly after, he died. Greta weeps, overwhelmed by the memory. Gabriel, initially angry, hides his emotions and listens. As Greta sleeps, he reflects on their relationship and realizes how little passion he feels compared to Michael's intense love for her. Gabriel feels insignificant and acutely aware of aging and mortality. He saw himself as a ludicrous figure, acting as a penny boy for his aunts, a nervous, well-meaning sentimentalist, orating to vulgarians and idealizing his own clownish lusts. The pitiable fatuous fellow he had caught a glimpse of in the mirror. He thinks about his aunts and their inevitable deaths. As the snow begins to fall, covering everything equally, Gabriel contemplates the fleeting nature of life and the inevitability of death. His soul swoons slowly as he heard the snow falling faintly through the universe and faintly falling, like the descent of their last end, upon all the living and the dead. Now let's discuss Joyce's The Dead in detail. The evening in The Dead is filled with small, significant conflicts. The first occurs during Gabriel's conversation with Lily. While trying to be kind, he unintentionally speaks down to her by joking about her future wedding. Lily's sharp response embarrasses him, as he has noticed her physicality and doesn't expect such a reply. This awkward moment unsettles Gabriel and highlights a failure to connect, making him worry that his dinner speech might sound too pretentious for the audience. Later, Gabriel speaks with Miss Ivers, who lightly teases him about his lack of loyalty to Ireland. Gabriel, sensitive and self-conscious, takes her comments to heart. Miss Ivers, intelligent and cheerful, doesn't mean to offend him, but her remarks make Gabriel feel exposed and foolish. Their conversation emphasizes how Irish gatherings often include political discussions, which Gabriel is eager to avoid. He even looks around nervously, worried someone might overhear his opinions. On the way home, Gabriel thinks fondly of his wife. However, he discovers Greta has been lost in her own thoughts, remembering a youthful love, Michael Fury. Although they are married, Gabriel realizes they are emotionally distant during the entire evening. Hoping for a romantic night, he instead confronts the fact that he has never loved anyone as passionately as Michael loved Greta. Gabriel Conroy appears as a careful, authoritative figure admired by his aunts for managing family affairs. However, two interactions at the party challenge his self-assurance. First, he offends Lily, a servant, by awkwardly asking about her personal life. Instead of apologizing, Gabriel ends the conversation by giving her a holiday tip. He justifies this by blaming his elite education for his inability to connect with working-class people, but his reliance on money shows his need to maintain social distance. This encounter reveals Gabriel's discomfort with opposition, something he can't escape during the party. Later, while dancing with Miss Ivers, Gabriel is caught off guard by her pointed questions about his lack of nationalist sentiment. Struggling to respond, he blurts out that he is tired of Ireland, shocking both her and himself with his outburst. These uncomfortable moments foreshadow the deeper unease Gabriel feels by the end of the night. When he sees his wife Greta lost in thought, he wants to control her emotions. Although he reminisces about their romantic past and feels desire for her, his feelings stem from a need for control, not love. At the hotel, when Greta confesses that she was thinking about her first love, Michael Fury, Gabriel is devastated. He realizes he can never truly possess her. After Greta falls asleep, Gabriel begins to reflect. Learning about Michael Fury, Greta's first love, doesn't make him jealous. Instead, he feels sorrow because Michael loved with an intensity Gabriel has never experienced. This realization forces Gabriel to confront his emotionally restrained life. He understands that those who live passionately, like Michael, experience life more fully than people like himself, who live cautiously and without risk. Gabriel's inner change leads him to reflect on life and mortality. Earlier, in his dinner speech, Gabriel had emphasized a clear division between the past and present. Now, he realizes this division is false. Michael Fury's memory continues to influence Greta, proving that the past lives on in the present. Looking out of the window, Gabriel sees snow falling across Ireland, covering both graves and the living. He understands that death connects everyone, and he, too, will one day join the dead and be forgotten. The Morkan's annual party symbolizes the lifeless routines that dominate the characters' lives. Every year, the same events occur. Gabriel gives his speech, Freddie Malins arrives drunk, and everyone dances and eats the same way. Gabriel's story about the horse walking in circles at the mill mirrors the repetitive, stagnant nature of the party. These routines trap the characters in a state of paralysis, preventing them from experiencing anything new or meaningful. Even the food reflects death. The dinner table is described in military terms. Dishes are lined up like opposing armies, with fruit acting as guards and bottles as soldiers. This transforms the meal from a celebration into a scene of rehearsed routine. In his speech, Gabriel praises the Morkans' hospitality but contradicts himself by urging people to focus on the present rather than dwell on the past. However, his vision of snow general all over Ireland connects the dead and living, symbolizing the frozen paralysis of life in Dublin. In the dead, snow becomes a powerful symbol of isolation and mortality. Gabriel begins to feel like he is joining the world of the dead. His soul had approached that region where dwell the vast hosts of the dead. Snow, which falls on all the living and the dead, reflects the separation between people, even those closest to us. It highlights how individuals remain unknowable to one another, emphasizing loneliness and disconnection. At the same time, snow represents the universal inevitability of death. As it lies thick, it covers everything in a uniform whiteness, hiding objects and graves alike. This reminds Gabriel that death is impartial and unavoidable for everyone. Snow isolates each person but also unites them in the shared reality of mortality. Also, snow highlights the stagnating routine of Dubliners, suggesting that change is possible. Snow in January is rare in Ireland and cannot last forever, hinting that the characters might one day break free from their lifeless routines. Gabriel's marriage reflects a deeper paralysis, as the couple has grown distant over the years. At the end of the story, Gabriel initially believes that Greta's passion is directed at him, rekindling his hopes for their relationship. However, he soon learns her emotions are tied to a memory of Michael Fury. This disconnect emphasizes the stagnation in their marriage. When Gabriel enters the party, his coat and shoes are described as stiff with snow, linking the physical cold to emotional immobility. The story concludes with the famous image of snow blanketing all of Ireland, representing the frozen state of Gabriel, his homeland, and his relationships. Gabriel's emotional immobility is also tied to his disconnection from his Irish identity. Miss Ivor's enthusiasm for Irish culture and politics contrasts with Gabriel's preference for European influences. He writes for a newspaper critical of Irish nationalism, vacations in Europe instead of the west of Ireland, and admires English poets like Robert Browning. Miss Ivors jokingly calls him a West Briton, highlighting his alienation from his heritage. Gabriel's internal struggle is tied to his admiration for England, which symbolizes his inability to embrace his Irish roots fully. References to historical figures like Wellington and William III, symbols of English dominance in Ireland, reinforce this conflict. Just as Gabriel's grandfather rode his horse in endless circles around a statue of William III, Gabriel feels trapped in a cycle of admiration for Englishness and detachment from his own culture. The story is set in winter, a season that symbolizes both celebration and death. Gabriel's elderly aunts, hosting the party in their aging house, reflect the relentless passage of time. Gabriel notices a photograph of his late mother on their wall, recalling her intelligence and how she helped him and his brother achieve success. At dinner, the conversation turns to monks who sleep in coffins as a reminder of their mortality, which resonates with Gabriel. In his speech, Gabriel emphasizes the importance of remembering past generations who have contributed to art and culture. However, when Greta later reveals her memories of Michael Fury and his sacrifice for her, Gabriel is struck by the idea of cherishing ordinary people for their personal, meaningful actions. This shifts Gabriel's perspective on mortality. He moves from an abstract appreciation of the dead to a personal reflection on his own life and legacy. Gabriel begins to question his accomplishments. While successful, he feels he has not done anything extraordinary or memorable, unlike his mother, Michael Fury, or even his aunts, who have supported the arts and shared their talents with others. He is also struck by the realization that he doesn't truly know his wife as deeply as he thought, given her emotional connection to Michael. As Gabriel processes this, the falling snow in the story's final image offers a sense of calm. Covering the land in a soft, unifying layer, the snow symbolizes the erasure of individuality and the inevitability of mortality. Do subscribe for more Dubliners stories.